Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Okay, we're going to dive right into things today because we are tackling a concept so incredibly massive, it can honestly be a little hard to wrap your head around. We're talking about Earth's biodiversity. Now, I want you to picture the natural world not just as, a wild forest or an ocean, but as a colossal, sprawling library. Right this second, billions of life forms are constantly interacting, from microscopic algae in the water to eagles soaring up above. But without a system, this natural library is just total unorganized chaos. So today, we're going to find out exactly how scientists have managed to step in and catalog this breathtaking diversity.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, the Library of Life. Second, organizing the chaos. Third, the Five Kingdoms. Fourth, the naming system. And finally, number 5, protecting our biodiversity. Let's just jump right in. Section 1. The Library of Life. To really grasp why scientific classification is absolutely crucial, we first need to understand the sheer scale of the problem we're dealing with. Try a quick thought experiment with me. Imagine that every single species on Earth, every insect, every plant, every microscopic bacteria is a book. Now imagine all of those millions of books have just been dumped randomly into a giant pile on the floor. If you had to find just one specific organism, where would you even begin? Without some kind of system, the overwhelming scale makes it literally impossible to find, study, or understand anything. Actually, the source material for our explainer frames it perfectly with this quote. Imagine walking into a huge library where thousands of books are scattered all over the floor. You want to read the book On the Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. Where would you begin? It just brilliantly hits the nail on the head. Without arranging things by subjects or authors or sections, finding any single piece of information is practically impossible. While that chaotic pile of books, that is our planet's biodiversity. By definition, biodiversity is the immense variety of living organisms on Earth. It's the entire inventory of our library. And this variety isn't just nice to look at, it is completely essential for keeping nature stable and functioning. Microscopic algae in the oceans release most of the oxygen we breathe. Fungi and bacteria break down fallen leaves to make our soil fertile. Even farmers have relied on this diversity for centuries to find drought-tolerant or pest-resistant crops to guarantee our food security. It's the whole shebang. Section 2. Organizing the chaos. So if biodiversity is the inventory, you can think of scientists as the ultimate librarians, continuously upgrading how they sort things out. And it's honestly fascinating to see how our sorting system evolved as technology got better. Way back in the 4th century BCE, Aristotle kept it pretty simple. He just grouped animals by habitat, land, water, and air. Fast forward to 1758, Carolus Linnaeus divided life into just 2 kingdoms, Plantae and Animalia. But then, as tools like microscopes were invented, things got a lot more complicated. Scientists suddenly discovered single-celled organisms darting around that moved like animals. This forced the addition of a 3rd kingdom by Ernst Haeckel, a 4th by Herbert Copeland, and finally, the modern 5-kingdom system by Robert H. Whittaker in 1969. All right, Section 3, the 5 kingdoms.
Before we even think about putting a book on a shelf, we have to make our very first sorting decision, and it all comes down to the cell. We split organisms into 2 fundamental categories. On one side, we have prokaryotes. These are guys with a primitive nucleus and an unbounded membrane. On the other side, we have eukaryotes, which have a complex, membrane-bound true nucleus. It sounds super technical, but this single microscopic difference is the absolute foundation of our entire classification system.
So, how exactly does this branch out into the 5 kingdoms? Let's break down this shelving system. On one end, we have Monera. These are your single-celled prokaryotes, like bacteria. Stepping up a bit in complexity is Protista. These are also single-celled, but they are eukaryotic, meaning they have that true nucleus. Then we've got fungi. These are multicellular eukaryotes with a chitin cell wall, and they act as nature's decomposers. Next up are Plantae, multicellular with cellulose walls naturally making their own food. And finally, Animalia, multicellular, no cell walls at all, and they depend on other organisms for food. So every living thing on Earth fits neatly onto one of these 5 shelves. Just to keep this grounded, let's look at a few fascinating real-world residents of these kingdoms. In the fungi kingdom, things like Patharchae pool, or lichens, are actually a symbiotic relationship used as a natural spice and dye. Over in the Monera kingdom, ancient cyanobacteria literally produced early Earth's oxygen about 2.5 billion years ago. In the animal kingdom, get this, a simple sponge, an animal without true tissues, can filter an astonishing 24,000 liters of seawater every single day. That's enough to fill a swimming pool. And going back to Monera, specific bacteria living in the guts of ruminant animals are entirely responsible for producing biogas from dung. I mean, our library is just full of incredible stories.
Section 4. The naming system.
Okay, so now that our shelves are built, every single book needs a proper, universally understood title. Scientists do this by zooming in, step by step, almost like finding a highly specific postal address. Let's try finding the exact address for a tiger, for instance. We start super broad in Kingdom Animalia. Then we narrow it down to phylum Chordata, meaning it has a backbone. Then into class Mammalia and order Carnivora. We get even closer with the cat family, Felidae, until we finally reach the exact genus and species, Panthera tigris.
That final two-part name, that is what we call binomial nomenclature. It's a universal system of naming living organisms using a two-part scientific name, usually in Latin. Now, you might be wondering, why is this so brilliant? Well, think about it. A tiger might be called bog in Hindi, puli in Tamil, or tigre in French. If scientists around the world try to share research using their local names, it's just utter confusion. This Latin naming system acts as a universal language for our entire global library. But there are very strict rules for writing these titles down on our library's index cards. Rule 1. The genus comes first and is always capitalized. Rule 2. The species name follows right after and is strictly lowercase. And Rule 3. When it's printed, the entire name must be written in italics. Take a look at the scientific name for the everyday mango, for example, Mangifera indica. It's clean, it's precise, and it's universally understood by scientists everywhere.
Section 5. Protecting our biodiversity. So what does this all mean? Why does this massive categorization effort actually matter in the real world? It matters because, quite simply, you cannot protect what you haven't identified. For example, in the Pawkey Tiber Reserve, scientists identified 4 distinct species of hornbills. By classifying them so carefully, they realized these birds nest only in very specific, large old trees. If those trees go, the birds go. Similarly, endemic species like the Nilgiri tar in India are found literally nowhere else on Earth. And in Manipur, these unique floating grasslands called fundus are the only habitat supporting the endangered Sangai deer. Classification pinpoints exactly what a species is and precisely what it needs to survive. And that is critical right now, because the delicate shelves in our library of life are being actively destroyed. Human activities are creating unprecedented threats. Pollution is poisoning habitats. Deforestation is tearing down those old trees the hornbills rely on. Overuse of resources is depleting ecosystems way faster than they can ever recover. And climate change is just shifting the very foundations these organisms have adapted to over millions of years. The natural world is a deeply, deeply interconnected web. Plants produce food, animals pollinate flowers, and microorganisms recycle the nutrients. So I want to leave you with this final, absolutely crucial thought to reflect on today. If one species disappears from the library, how many others go unread? When we lose one single organism, we threaten the entire system that depends on it. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer to explore the incredible library of life. I really hope you walk away today with a newfound curiosity to learn more about the incredible world right out